Welcome to this video on the knotless knot. This is quite a popular knot in specimen fishing. If you're just a casual coarse angler, it can also be a fantastic knot to use. It's a knot for use with eyed hooks when you want a hair rig. If you want to see this in action, check out our method feeder videos where Paul gets a bit of an introduction into an unfamiliar method, the method feeder, which is a very, very effective tactic used by both specimen carp anglers and match carp anglers. A hair rig is not just about disguising or moving the hook away from the bait. It's a much more efficient way of presenting bait where the hook's completely clear and it's got much more hooking potential when there's no bait masking the hook. When the bait's sat off the back of the hook or the side of the hook, when a fish takes it in, the whole hook is free, the whole gape's clear. First of all, you're going to need some kind of a loop or attachment for a hair. There are numerous different ways of attaching bait with a hair. I could go through all of them here, but it's not really the place to do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a very basic overhand knot in the end of this. You really don't need any strength in the knot on a hair rig because the only force on it is the weight of the bait. There's never a point where it needs to support the weight of the fish. So just a very simple loop in proportion to the size of the hook, something like that. In this scenario, you would use a bait stop where you put a baiting needle through your bait, pull this loop through your bait and put a little stopper on it. There are other methods where you can trap a little latex band in a loop and actually use the latex band to attach the bait. There are even more scenarios where you get things called bait spikes, but again, I don't want to overcomplicate things for this. We're going to put a loop on this. So the thing with a knotless knot is you need the length of hook link material already cut roughly to size, because you need to pass the sort of reel and rod end of the line through the hook a couple of times. So if you're going to do, I don't know, a 6-inch hook length, you might want a foot or more of line, just so you've got plenty of line to work with when it comes to sort of finishing off knots. You take your hook and you're going to put your line through the back of the hook, and then you're going to pull it through until the hair's sat exactly where you'd like it to be. And there are many, many schools of thought on where you sit your hair and how long it is. For example, some barbel anglers might have a very long hair. Some carp anglers prefer a short hair that kicks off almost halfway along. I'm just going to have a hair sat off the back of the bend of the hook like this. So there's the line through. The next thing to do is we're going to wrap this around the hook several times, but I want to just rewind and go into a bit of detail here. Can you get close up on that, Paul?
Yeah.
You can see there are two sides I could wrap. I could wrap to that side first, or I could wrap to this side first. This side is where the eyes joined up, and quite often you get a little bit of rough edge there. So if I was to make my first wrap there, it puts quite a bit of pressure in that first wrap against that join, and that can rub and end up cutting into the line. If I make my first turn that way, the first turn's kind of butted up against this softer part of the hook where it's all nice and smooth. So some eyes go that side, some eyes go that side. It varies from brand to brand. So just make sure you have a close look at your hook eye and you always wrap to the smooth side first. So in this case, it's there. So that's one wrap, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if I was in a really heavy breaking strainer line, 6 wraps is probably enough. If I was in something like £6 or £4 line, even for a like a size 16 hook, I might go as many as 14 or 15 wraps going right down. It's more about how far down the shank the knot comes than how many wraps. There's no real rule of thumb because shanks can vary in length, but I often like to come down about as far as the point, and that can vary from hook to hook. Once you've got several wraps down, more than 6 certainly, you can do a wrap coming back up, so we're kind of finishing there, and then you grab the whole thing so that you've sort of pinched the hook and we've got this tag end. What we want to do then is we want to thread this through the hook eye again, and that's easier said than done with this heavy paracord. So that goes through the eye, and again it's coming from the back going to the front, and it pulls down, and that has got no actual knot in it, it's just whipped. But you've got this incredibly strong knot. It spreads a lot of the load back up these turns. If you pull really hard in some materials, you'll see you can get the hair to just twist slightly. So it can be a case of just sort of messing around to sit it where you want it. And when you hook a fish and play a fish, you might find that that hair wanders again. That's a fairly natural thing to happen with a knotless knot, a little bit of movement in the knot. But for that knot to pull and come undone, if you think about it, it's got to pull that hair up through there and round all those turns. So there's no way it's coming undone. So that's the knotless knot. It's really, in my experience, I've only seen it used when you want a hair rig. So it's not really something that applies to you know, fly anglers and things like that. It's for people who are attaching bait on a hair. But it is one of the strongest knots, and it gets used a hell of a lot in specimen fishing. There's not really a lot else to say about that. We'll probably do another feature on different hair attachments, and that really is going to need us to get in super close with actual fishing rigs and fishing gear to show you how we attach various different baits. So if you've got a favourite bait that you'd like to see hair rig, drop us a comment below, and we'll try and accommodate that in a future video. If you think you know a better knot for a hair rig, let us know as well. I'd love to see it. If you want to see more of these kinds of things, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time with another knot.